Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So the Mermail Atlantean theme is a strategy that is debuting in Rage of the Abyss. We already talked about this strategy in this channel before. I will post a link in the description. What I have here on the screen is all the notable and noteworthy cards that people recognize when it comes to this strategy. What I'm going to do today is talk about other cards that people are probably not thinking about or overlooking when it comes to this archetype. I think that deck building is very crucial and important when it comes to like a deck doing well in the TCG, and it might be surprising to see if the water theme actually does well here, because it did not do well in the OCG, at least to our knowledge. Obviously there are a few caveats that comes to that, like for example the Mo Charming monsters being like very popular. Max C is another problem for that for the Atlantean theme. We do have Totally Awesome as part of our arsenal, while they do not. So all of these things come into play and play a very significant role when it comes to this strategy in general. So the first thing I'm gonna do is talk about two cards that you should heavily consider whenever you're playing this theme. One is already noteworthy and the other one is a new card from Rage of the Abyss. And the first card is Mo Charming Parolia. As you guys already know, that Mo Charming Parolia showed up in Infinite Forbidden. It is a hand trap that is being played in a few strategies. Why am I bringing up Mo Charming Parolia in this deck specifically? The reason I'm bringing up Parolia is because it is a water aqua level 4 monster. And you might think that that is not a very big deal, but in a strategy like this one, where you can just extend and just summon like a plethora of water monsters without even your normal summon, you can make Bahamut Shark with this card. You can use this card as fodder for your Atlantean or your Mermail effects. You can, in worst case scenario, if you go second, this is a hand trap that you can use against your opponent and just draw you cards. I've always been a fan of hand traps that just serve dual purpose in a strategy, or a strategy that just gives an extra purpose to hand traps, and Mo Charming Parolia is a perfect fit for this strategy. The other card I want to talk about, and we've already talked about this card a lot of times already in the past, is Dominus Impulse. So it comes to no surprise that Dominus Impulse is like one of the most important cards to think about when it comes to Rage of the Abyss. And Atlantean Mermails is a deck that can play this card with little to no drawbacks. They don't play any lights, they don't play any earth, they don't play any wind monsters. So any deck that can play this card will play this card. And Mermail is, and the Atlantean deck is a deck that can play this card. So right off the bat, we already have Parolia and we already have Dominus Impulse. So that's already 6 hand traps that you get to play in your strategy. Infinite Impermanence is another one. You can play Ash Blossom. Like, you do have a fair amount of non-engine room for this deck. But I figured I had to talk about these two specifically because I feel like these two will like impact the meta game soon enough. Obviously, people are looking more forward into Foraros, the other Mo Charming, but I feel like some decks that will play around Foraros will be caught off guard because of Parolia. And funnily enough, Parolia is really strong against the Atlantean mirror match if this ever actually becomes a feasible strategy. Now, you've probably seen this card in the graveyard. You're seeing the Ice Jade Ran Agerin. This card is already known to be played in water strategies, but this is going to segue into an engine that probably a lot of people forgot about, and actually does play a role and can be played in this deck. And those are the Icejades in general. Like Adrian is the most popular one. It is the best one we can play in this deck. But we all have the regular Adrian, which can search for Cradle, and Cradle can search for Ran Adrian. We have Temora, which can send itself to special summon a water monster from your hand. And you can also use its graveyard effect to special summon water from your graveyard. Tinola can tutor water monsters from the graveyard by sending cards from the hand to a graveyard. And this is important because it does trigger all the Atlantean monsters. You have Ice Jade active, which can draw you cards. And this card also has the effect to banish itself to special summon an Ice Jade monster from your hand or graveyard. So, like in a water-centric theme like this one, these Ice Jade monsters serve dual purpose. Another really cool thing about Ice Jade Adrian is that if we read this card, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card, or targets this card for an attack, you can special summon one water monster from your hand or graveyard, like in chain to that effect. So if you try to just summon this card and it gets impermed, or it gets Veilered, or Ghost Mournered, SP Little Knight, anything like that, you can use this effect, tutor another Ice Jade name, and just keep your engine rolling. It doesn't have to be an Ice Jade, it could be just any water monster. So you can, so if you have, like, for example, Neptabis, or you have the Sea Spirit, or you have the Bodyguards, you have like Abyss Spike, you can just summon any of them. It's very tricky how you would play this engine, but I feel like this engine does have a lot of merit. This card is like a really strong card as well. Like, this is basically an extender that can summon an Ice Jade from the deck. Your opponent has to have a card on the field or in the graveyard, but like in a format where hand traps are everywhere, the trigger condition for this card is not that hard to meet. Adding to that, this does have a graveyard effect if an Ice Jade monster leaves because of your opponent's card. Let's say, for example, you summon like Adrian and your opponent Nibiru's this before you get to use your Adrian like a synchro material. You can just you can use manifestation, banish it, banish the Nibiru, like or after they already established the Nibiru, you can use the manifestation, summon another monster from the deck, and just keep going. This is just to tell you that these cards are nothing to scoff at. Under the right pilot, you can actually just make this engine feasible in this deck. And I will show you like a little bit on how it can bridge onto the other archetype. The other thing that I want to talk about is Ice Barrier. If you guys remember, Ice Barriers received very recent support in the Battles of Legends set. Most of these Ice Barrier monsters lock you into water monsters, which is no issue at all because you are locked into water monsters anyway with the Atlantean theme, at least with the newer cards. And you have really strong Ice Barrier monsters. Adding to that, you have Ice Barrier monsters that just trigger your Atlanteans. For example, Revealer. You have Speaker that can serve as an extender. Hexa is a Sea Serpent, so you can add this with Dragoon. Georgius can just shut down your opponent's water monster effects from their graveyard, which is really strong against like themes like, for example, Yubel and Snake Eyes and Fire Kings, just to give you a few examples. Like Mirror Mage being a level 2 Aqua means you can make totally awesome in case you go that route. You have cards that can just tutor into your Ice Barrier monsters as well, like for example Freezing Chain or your Medallion. So yeah, these are two engines that just really facilitate plays for this deck. And not only that, it also gives you like access to powerful cards in your extra deck. Now that I talked about the new like engines that you can incorporate, like these and these, let's just show you like one sample hand. Let's see if we can draw a hand that involves a bridge into these engines, or just involves these engines in general, and see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is a perfect hand for that. So as you can see, we have Netabis the Atlantean Prince, we have Rand Agering, and we have Georgius. So let us start with Neptabis. Normal summoning the Neptabis effect for cost, and we're just going to send Dragoons and add Dragoons to our hand. You're probably already familiar with this line. This line is very popular already, like in a typical Mermail Atlantean deck. You're probably going to search like another extender with this card. Like in older times, you would add Megalo, or you would add Minstrel, or you would add like Mulinglacia. You might add like the original Poplar, which is the Lapis Dragon. That is another example of another card you can add with Dragoon. Let us add something a little bit different. The card that we're going to search here is the Bodyguards. And you guys already know about the Bodyguards. This is a new card from Radio the Abyss. But let us show you something really cool. So we have Adrian. Adrian is going to dump the Shadow Bodyguards. And now the Adrian is going to summon us a token. The Shadow Bodyguards is going to trigger because it was dumped because of Water Monster's effect. And that is going to summon... Let's see if we can find it. We're going to summon the Mermail Abyss Pike. Mermail Abyss Pike is going to trigger. We're going to dump Atlantean Dragoons to the graveyard, and we're going to add a level 3 water monster. I'm going to show you something real quick. This is not a card that we're going to add with this card. However, this is where the Ice Jade engine bridges in. Remember the Ice Jade Agering that we showed a little bit ago? Let's see if we can find it. Here it is. Remember this card? This is a level 3 water monster that you can search with the Abyss Pike. So this can bridge you into Agering. But we already have Agering into rotation, so that's not what we're going to add. We're going to add the new card, the Abyss Shrine. And now we're going to trigger Dragoon's effect, and Dragoon's effect is just going to add us another Sea Serpent. For the sake of the explanation behind this video, let us go with something simple. Let us add... You know what? We can just show you the second bridge that we have in this deck. And the second bridge that we're talking about is the Ice Barrier Hexa Spirit. This is a Sea Serpent monster that you can add with Atlantean Dragoons, and it is an Ice Barrier monster that helps you tutor your Ice Barrier effects. So now we're at this point of the combo. We're going to grab the Grand Agerine and the token, and take note, this is our 5th summon. So we are now on the range of the Nibiru, and we're going to summon Lancia, Ancestral Dragon of the Ice Mountain. So for those who don't know what this card is, this is like the boss monster for the Ice Barrier theme. Each time your opponent special summons, you can just summon an Ice Barrier from your deck. The reason we're summoning this card is because not only is this card a good catalyst to summon like in your opponent's turn the Ice Barrier monsters, but if this card leaves the field, for example by a Nibiru effect, this card can summon Trishula, and Trishula can just take another card of your opponent's hand and can get rid of the Nibiru as well. And a lot of people are afraid of this resolving. So most likely, more than not, your opponent is not going to do that, especially if they don't know if you play like stuff like Triple Tactic Talents or Thrust. So technically we have Insulation with the Lancia. So let us continue. We're going to use the Abyss Train effect, tributing her and the Neptabis, and we're going to add an old friend from the Mermail theme, and that is Mermail Icejades. Now the Neptabis is going to trigger, and Neptabis is going to summon Atlantean Dragoons. We already know about Dragoons. We're going to overlay these two, and these two overlaying is going to summon the Bahamut Shark. We're going to do Bahamut Shark's effect. Bahamut Shark is going to detach, and we're probably going to summon Totally Awesome. And this is something that we have that the OCG does not have. The fact that we have this card and we do not have Maxi already is high hopes for this archetype. Now we're going to trigger Atlantean Dragoons. Atlantean Dragoons is going to add us from the deck. Let us add something. Let us add Mulling Glacia. We don't have enough monsters for Mulling Glacia, but you know, I digress. This could be anything you want to add. Now let's keep going. We're going to summon Mermail Atlantean. Mermail Atlantean is going to dump the Hexa Spirit, and we're going to add a Mermail monster. We already went through a lot of lower Mermails, but one Mermail that we can add is just another copy of the Shadow Bodyguards. Just to give you an example, you can add like other Mermails to the mix if you want to play them. Now, let us use Bahamut Shark and use this, and we're going to summon Marincess Coral Anemone. Marincess Coral Anemone is going to use her effect, and this is where we bridge into the Ice Barrier part. We already have access to the Hexa Spirit because of Georgius. Actually, no, we need to control Ice Barrier for that, but yeah, this is going to summon the Hexa Spirit. Hexa Spirit is going to trigger its effect. Hexa Spirit is going to dump the Mirror Mage. The Mirror Mage is going to trigger its effect, and we're going to add Freezing Chains. And see where this is going. Like, we can now use Georgius effect. Georgius can special summon itself since we control an Ice Barrier monster. And Georgius can special summon the Mirror Mage. Let us special summon this in defense. And we're running out of room. We need to make more room for more cards. So let us grab the Hexa Spirit, let us grab the Coral Anemone, let us grab the Georgius. All of these can use as material, and we can summon the Royal Mermail. Royal Mermail is going to trigger its effect, and we're just going to grab like the Abyss skill of Mitsushi. We can equip this card here to the Royal Neptabis. But we can keep going if we want, right? So let us, for example, activate the Freezing Chains. You can use the Freezing Chains and bring the Jordan. It has to be level 4 or lower, so we're just going to grab the Hexa Spirit. We can use Mirror Mage's effect. We can tribute the Hexa Spirit. We can summon 2 tokens. And now Mirror Mage is now level 4. We can grab the Mirror Mage alongside the 2 tokens and just summon Coral Dragon. And if we had another extender, we could have just kept going. This is not like the most impressive end board, but this is just to show you an example of stuff that we can do. Another thing you can do is just leave this on board. Just leave these on board, or you can turn these into another monster. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, but take note, this is just with one Neptabis. Obviously we did open the Agerine, but you have the summons from Lancia, and Lancia can summon like stuff from the deck. Let's say we summon Raiho. Like Raiho is another sticky card that just exhausts your opponent's resources. You have the negate from the Mizushi. If your opponent on your opponent's turn, you can also like banish the Abyss Shrine to dump into the graveyard. You can do the Neptabyss effect, Neptabyss to re-equip. These Royal Guards can, like, if we had an empty space, could summon like something else from the deck. But yeah, I feel like I got the picture when it comes to like showing you what I mean with the Ice Barrier strategy and the Icejades and like how it fits into this team. It's very, very soon to tell what is the fate of this deck when Rage of the Abyss comes out, but I feel like under the right hands and the right pilot, we might see something very, very promising. Maybe the Year of Fire might be ending soon, and the Year of Water might begin. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found this to your liking and understanding. More videos coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.